What's up, my friends in film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching? Thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of your time. To dive deep into the 90s, and why not start with probably maybe one of the top 3 movies at least to come out of the decade. There was, as much as I shit on the 90s, there was a couple of bangers that came out. I'll give Jeremy a little bit of credit where credit is due for being a fan of the 90s. This is easily one of the best films that came out of the decade. I mean, by far, it's something that's influenced film for a long, long time since then. But here to talk about it with me is the Dowager Countess, Lady Cora. How are you tonight, ma'am?
I'm doing great. Things are good. I'm happy to be here.
Getting moved.
I am starting to feel settled, but I'm at the point where I'm realizing some of the stuff I left, because I have stuff in South Dakota, I have stuff in Oregon, and I'm trying to centralize my life in Vegas. And I'm starting to realize the stuff I'm missing that I need every day. And I'm like, fuck.
So you're living a tri-state existence, 3 states.
Something like that. Do I buy new stuff or do I wait? Like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. Anyway, life's good.
Yeah, it's been an adventure for you moving around the last couple of months, that's for sure. Then, of course, my hetero life mate Jeremy, in full uniform, of course, ready to chase down any rogue programs that may come across our way. What's up, brother?
Well, not much. This is now on record that Frank is maybe finally giving a little bit of leeway and admitting that there have been some pretty good bangers that came out of the 90s. I have a whole list on my phone, but I mean, that's a couple more streams worth. But yeah, this is definitely a pinnacle of some 90s cinema. It's a wild movie, and if I've said it 100 times, this was my all-time favorite movie, like of all time, for a long time.
Yeah, really, I mean, great cinema has come. Every decade has put out a couple of movies that just absolutely, they do something that just kind of pushes the envelope much, much farther than most movies do. The Matrix is certainly one of them. Again, the 90s was full of, like I said, there was a couple of bangers in the decade. I can't lie. But, Lady Cora, why don't you talk to us about what movie we're going to be going into tonight, as if the screen right there is not a good indicator as to what it is.
Well, The Matrix is a 1990 science fiction action film written and directed by the Wachowskis. It is the first installment in the Matrix film series starring Keanu Reeves, Laurence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, Hugo Weaving, and Joe Pantoliano, and depicts a dystopian. I know the word. Fuck. Okay. Depicts a dystopian future in which humanity is unknowingly trapped inside the Matrix, a simulated reality that intelligent machines have created to distract humans while using their bodies as an energy source. When computer programmer Thomas Anderson, under the hacker name Neo, uncovers the truth, he joins the rebellion against the machines along with other people who have been freed from the Matrix. The Matrix opened in theaters in the U.S. on March 31st, 1999, to widespread acclaim from critics who praised its innovative visual effects, action sequences, cinematography, and entertainment value, and was a massive success at the box office, grossing over $460 million on a $63 million budget, becoming the highest-grossing Warner Brothers film of 1999 and the 4th highest-grossing film of that year. At the 72nd Academy Awards, the film won all 4 categories it was nominated for: Best Visual Effects, Best Film Editing, Best Sound, and Best Sound Editing. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 83% based on 207 reviews, with an average score of 7.7 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, "Thanks to the Wachowskis' imaginative vision, The Matrix is a smartly crafted combination of spectacular action and groundbreaking special effects." The film's success led to 2 further feature film sequels being released in 2003, The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions, which were also written and directed by the Wachowskis. The Matrix franchise was further expanded through the production of comic books, video games, and an animated anthology film, The Animatrix, with which the Wachowskis were heavily involved. A 4th film titled The Matrix Resurrections was released on December 22nd, 2021.
Yeah, we tend to not talk about that one, though.
I didn't watch it for a reason, Frank. I still, to this day, have not watched it.
You're not really
much.
You're not missing
You're
much.
not missing much. This is from a big Matrix fan. You're not missing much, trust me.
Yeah, but let's give our quick thoughts kind of on the movie before we get too much into the spoiler stuff. I'll start with you, Lady Cora. You've seen The Matrix. What's kind of a brief paragraph, some of your thoughts on the film before we get into the details?
Well, we all have thought it. I'm a sci-fi fan, first of all. So whether it's Asimov books or Star Trek or whatnot, this kind of filters into the what if. And there are certain episodes on the TV show SG-1 Stargate where they show different societies, and I love the idea that there could be an alternate universe that isn't just boring like the life we have here on Earth. And this kind of, I think, enchants people, and so it puts you in a position to think what the world could be. Is it real or not? And it became an iconic phrase, the Matrix. I mean, if you go to Reddit and you go to the Matrix page subreddit, there's all sorts of stuff on there. It's like it's now a colloquialism for the things that we don't understand that we think could be, but we don't have proof of. So this movie was very iconic and opened a lot of people's eyes, and kind of just tugged on I won't say heartstrings, but it really drew my attention, and I think it could have stood alone. I'll be honest. It could have stood alone the way it was. But I love that the Wachowskis had a vision for the trilogy, and it became this huge universe of possible plot happenings. It's just you get pulled into it, literally, like what they joke in the movie, going down a rabbit hole. You're Alice, and this is Wonderland, and at no time when I watch this movie, how many times I watch it, do I want to walk away? I want to keep going and not stop, because I just want to be entranced with this idea. So I think it's an experience more than it is a movie.
That's probably a good way to put it. It is it was one of the event films. It wasn't just a movie; it was an event film. There was a way that you went to see this movie that you don't see a lot of places. Jeremy, how about you? I mean, obviously, this is you said it already. This is one of the movies that has kind of made you a cinephile. Give me some brief thoughts on this before we get into the details.
Yeah, this movie came around, I think. Around that time, I was in high school, and I was getting more. I've always been into movies, but like, I surprisingly hadn't seen this until I was about in my mid-teens. But like, this movie was like insane to me. I didn't really know what it was about, and that's the whole thing that drives it. It's like, what is the Matrix? Like, what is this thing? What's this whole world about? And like Cora said, even as many times as I've watched this, I mean, I watched it today. I'm like, I don't have to watch this movie because I've seen it hundreds of times, but I'm like, I still want to watch this because it's something that you can still watch and still just be just as enthralled by every time you do watch it. And yeah, it is kind of it's something that'll blow your mind a little bit when you start to think like, I don't know, is this what we're doing right now? Is this a simulation? Is this actually real? And it has become pretty synonymous with things like that. Like, you experience some deja vu, you think, oh crap, like, did my whole building just get bricked off and am I trapped now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's in the back of your mind every once in a while. And it's like, this movie came out at the right time when it did, with the internet kind of getting to the good place, and it had the marketing of like, okay, there's a website. What is the Matrix? It came out in '99, just like with Blair Witch. It's like, oh hey, go check this out to see what really happened to these people. You know what I mean? It's like it was in the right place, the right time, and that's what makes this movie so fun. As we just talked about with Runaway, with tech, like with the internet and becoming a little bit more widespread, something like this, something to think about.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. This movie is something that, like I said earlier, it pushed filmmaking into something else. And Jeremy just made a comparison I was thinking of already. We were talking in Runaway about how they envisioned technology would be in the future in that movie. And The Matrix does that as well. It's like at this point, 1999, computers were starting to become everywhere. So many things were becoming computer controlled. The internet was still in its infancy, but still very much growing at at a pace that we couldn't even calculate. So yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see the Wachowskis siblings kind of put this out there, this vision of what a possibility of what our existence really is. I do think it's kind of funny that after this movie got big is when people started coming up with these theories like we all live in a simulation, we all live in a matrix. No, we don't, motherfuckers. Let's be honest here. But
How do you know?
It's ingrained itself in our psyche in a way that few movies have. And look, I've said it 100 times. You know, me and Jeremy have already talked. You know, made jokes about how the last Matrix movie wasn't very good, and it really wasn't. But this movie, and Cora said it already. You could have made this movie and left it, and not made sequels, and this movie would have been awesome on its own. I think it was a great ending. I think it was one of those ambiguous kind of endings that is really, really good for a movie like this, because you want to leave that question open. What is the Matrix? What's going to happen? Is he really some kind of a computer god and kind of program in this Matrix world? I think it would have been better to kind of leave those things open like that. Even though Matrix 2 wasn't a bad movie, it wasn't as good as the first one. 3, meh. I mean, say what you will about it. It was okay, and the fourth one, not good at all. But yeah, it's an interesting movie. But you know, let's dig into it just a little bit. Let's talk about the work of the Wachowski siblings. I mean, they've put on some pretty awesome shows. I mean, oh hey, and look who decided to pop in. Now I'm gonna have to rearrange everything. We got our guy Tex. What's up, brother?
Sorry about that. Just got home. I saw y'all were running late, but I hopped in while it was kind of early. What's up?
Tex made it on time. While I get a few cameras rearranged, Tex, why don't you give us your quick thoughts of the Matrix before we get into into our first topic of breakdown?
You know, this might be the most important movie to conspiracy theorists ever, because the whole red pill, blue pill thing it became the society of you know, what's real, what's not. I've always found, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I love it. It's fun. You know, some I believe, some I don't, whatever. But I've always found it funny that the people that, you know, are against the establishment use an establishment studio film to put their examples out there. The irony in that I've always found kind of funny, but yeah, it's I mean, if you were to say top 10 movies of the 90s, this one has a very strong case for being there. I mean, whether you're a sci-fi fan or not, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I'm trying to rework a couple of camera angles real quick. But I'll have to do a little bit of that kind of Drew style as I move him around on camera a little bit. Actually, that's not so bad. But yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said. But let's talk about the work of the Wachowski siblings just for a minute. They've put out some absolute interesting movies, one of which we're going to get to in November, of course. If you know, you know. But yeah, I mean, Jeremy, I'll go to you first. I mean, they've made a couple of movies. Some have hit really big. Some have been disappointments. But it seems like when they hit big, they hit bombs. I mean, what do you think of the work of the Wachowski siblings?
Yeah, they definitely. My microphone's touching a key on the keyboard. Stop that.
We can still hear you. Okay.
No, yeah, it was just pressing down the Windows key. My menu was trying to pop up at the same time. Yeah, they definitely have the creative mind to make some pretty awesome cinema. Again, I mean, this being point in case, it's like this is something that's, like I said, it's become so ingrained into pop culture or even just, you know, real life. Like Tex just said, like people use that as an analogy. Like, are you a red pill or blue pill? It's like I don't even know what's the context of what you're trying to, you know. That you need more context for what it's referring to. Yeah, it's a very smart movie. Pretty. I mean, I would even say the effects still hold up. It's pretty mind blowing for its time. And you know what? They gave the world bullet time. Like that was made up for this movie, and you know, that's something that's their thing. They own that, and they made that happen. And also that was absolutely meme to death in every goddamn movie in the early 2000s. Her jumping up in the air, stopping, and we're gonna spin around and then kick somebody. I'm like, yeah, it was cool when they did it, and then it wasn't when every single movie in the 2000s did it. Like, okay, but again, I guess that speaks to their effect on, you know, movies moving forward. As you said, It definitely changed the game, and in a very good way.
Yeah. Cora, what about you? I don't know how familiar you are with their work. I mean, I've got it sitting in front of me, and a lot of them I know. But what do you think about the overall work of the Wachowski siblings?
Well, I'll say this. One of my favorite sci-fi movies is Jupiter Ascending. And when they wrote that, and when I watched it, I'm a book lover. So the first time I had no idea who wrote it. I just watched it, and I was scouring the internet for the source material book so I could enjoy it more and realize there's no fucking book. It was one of the biggest letdowns. I was like, I want a book of Jupiter Ascending. I want more. And I know they wrote the screenplay for V for Vendetta, which is one of my very favorite films as well. And I think they have a knack for creating a world within a world that you get lost in. And there's not a lot of things that are missing that really stand out, like, oh, that's not believable. Oh, that's going to remind me that this is not real. They're very thorough about truly, like, kind of like Tolkien with his lore, like truly covering all the bases of what is and isn't in this universe, and you just don't ask a lot of questions and you don't question much. So anyways, I think their work is really great. I think they would be great to do more. Give me Jupiter Ascending too. Just saying. Come on. There we go.
Tex, how about you? What do you think of the work of the Wachowski siblings?
The only thing I know of the Wachowskis is the Matrix films. I've never seen any of their other stuff. I'm not a big sci-fi.
I bet you have. You probably just don't know it.
I may not. I may not have unknowingly have seen other things, but knowingly, all that I know that I've seen is did they do the fourth Matrix? I don't know if they came back for that one or
not. Lana Wachowski did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so half of them did. Yeah, no. The only thing I know them for is the Matrix films. I mean, if they've done something else, which I'm sure they have, I may or may not have seen it, but I mean, you can't deny the greatness that they put into the. I'm not going to count that fourth Matrix god awful. Just I don't even know what that thing was, but the first three are great. I like we talked the other day. I said I can't remember if I saw two or not, so I went back and watched it prior to seeing this, and I had seen it. It just for some reason it didn't leave a big impression on me. I think I'm in the minority on the Matrix stuff because the third one is actually my favorite. And I guess the consensus is kind of the first one is the best, which, I mean, it's a great film. But the Wachowskis themselves.
Like Tex was saying, do you think you could skip the second one and just watch the first and the third? Because I almost feel that way. I'm not going to lie.
Well, since they filmed 2 and 3 right back to back, it kind of wouldn't make any sense if you jumped right to 3. It's like, whoa, what the hell? Whoa.
That's kind of
what's going on? Like, 2 sets up a lot of the reason why 3 happened.
Like, I can't even tell you why 2 didn't leave an impression on me. It just didn't. It just, it didn't hit for whatever reason. Who knows? But I really enjoyed 3. And, I mean, it's like I told y'all, the fight scenes, the epicness. You've got Agent Smiths everywhere. It was just so, I mean, it was a CGI fest, but it was, I can still remember sitting in the theaters enjoying that film, I guess, is what draws me to it so much. But the Wachowskis, I know that, I mean, obviously, they're 2 brothers that both got sex changes. I think that's, what are the odds of that ever happening? I don't know. That's, very comedic, but hey, do what you want in life. I can give a crap. But, yeah, I mean, they've some of the best directors of the 90s. I mean, you can't argue that. There's no way around it.
Yeah, they it wasn't just the 90s. I mean, even into the first decade of the new millennium, they were still doing pretty well. Another one I got to give the 90s credit for is they actually wrote the movie Assassins with Antonio Banderas and Sylvester Stallone. That's a real fun action movie from the 90s. That's something straight out of it's a very 80s style movie, but yes, it was 90s. And then they did a movie called Bound, in which I've never seen it, never heard of it until I was looking into it. But
me either.
Joe Pantoliano, who played Cypher in this, was in that movie as well. Then they did from 1999 up till through the early 2000s, it was all Matrix all the time. It was the Matrix, Matrix 2, the Matrix, and then the other stuff, then the sequels. And then they did V for Vendetta, which is probably one you've seen a couple of times at least. That's one of my.
I know they had anything to do with that. I didn't even see it. But how do you go from the Matrix to Speed Racer?
I don't know. I don't know. But, V for Vendetta, one of my absolute favorite movies. We'll be doing that one, obviously, in November. That's on the schedule. They did a movie called The Invasion, which I've never heard of until just now. It stars Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig, so it's not like it doesn't have some star power. Follows some kind of a psychiatrist played by Kidman in Washington, D.C., doing something. I don't really know. And then Speed Racer, which I swear to God is one of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen.
I never saw it because I thought it'd be stupid.
I didn't see it either.
It was every bit as stupid as you think as it looked. I watched a lot of Speed Racer when I was a kid growing up, and when I heard the Wachowskis were doing it, I was like, oh shit, they've given me The Matrix, which are pretty good overall. They've given me V for Vendetta, which is really good overall, and then they gave me that lump of coal that was Speed Racer, and I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. I mean, visually it was a very interesting movie. It just wasn't a very good movie. They did give me one banger though that goes unnoticed and untalked about. They actually produced the film Ninja Assassins in 2009, which I think is one of the best martial arts movies that has happened since the 70s. I think that movie is awfully good. And then, of course, they did Cloud Atlas, like Cora had mentioned, Jupiter Ascending. Then, of course, the Matrix Resurrections. They had that TV show that went for a couple of years called Sense8. I didn't watch it. The marketing didn't do anything for me. It may be good. I don't know, but I never watched it. And then, of course, they were involved in some comic books and stuff like that. Obviously, in all the Matrix video games, they had a hand in writing or directing in one way, shape, or form. But yeah, I mean, it's really disappointing that their filmmaking career had kind of hit this period where nothing was working. It's like, because you start out, it's like we'll start with The Matrix. I mean, $63 million budget, $460 million. Reloaded, $150 million budget. They more than doubled it. Makes $742 million. So that's good. Matrix Revolutions, $150 million. Doesn't do quite as good, but whatever. V for Vendetta was financially successful. Speed Racer was an absolute bomb. $120 million budget and didn't even make $100 million. Cloud Atlas, kind of the same thing, just didn't even break even. Jupiter Ascending, maybe barely broke even, but I doubt it. And then Matrix Resurrections had a $190 million budget and made $156.6 million. It could have made a lot more were it not for the whole day and date release thing. But again, I mean, pandemic, theater going, took a hit. So I have a feeling that probably would have done a lot better financially had they not made the mistake of releasing it on HBO Max the same day. But yeah, the Wachowskis, their creative style is very, very good. But for some reason, they are kind of like what Tim Burton is to me, just really hit and miss. And when they hit hard. When they miss badly. So there is kind of no in between with them. Again, I haven't seen a couple of these films, but I mean, they're definitely very creative filmmakers. That's for sure. And I would love to see them do more work. I just want them to take time because this movie is one that gestated for them for about 10 years. So they had 10 years to really kind of organize this in their mind. They were really meticulous. They actually storyboarded the entire movie out. They spent a ton of money to hired some great storyboard artists, one of the best in Hollywood, to storyboard the entire thing and really sell it to the production company. So I think if they wanted to make another Matrix, you would have to really take your time and make sure it works, that it's really good, high quality stuff, not just let's throw it out there to make another Matrix box office haul because the last movie didn't do very well.
I think they should learn a lesson from Indiana Jones. Just stop at a good point and call it a day.
Yeah, I think a lot of franchises need to find their way to an end. I think it's better that way. I mean, the longer you let these things kind of just sit there and do their thing, it's harder and harder to keep that level of creativity up. That's why Christopher Nolan actually, he made it a point to, when he was doing the Batman films with Christian Bale, he made it a point to do a Batman film and then do a different film and then go back and do a Batman film. He didn't want to get stuck in that one world because he thought his creativity would suffer because of it. So he would do Batman, then do something else, then do the next Batman, then do one or two other things, then do the next Batman. He wanted to keep himself spread around so he didn't get locked into one train of thinking because every movie is a different thing. But, let's talk about the cast now. I mean, some people kind of unknown at the time, but for the most part, I mean, Keanu Reeves was already kind of a star. I mean, he had been around for at least since probably the early mid 80s. I mean, obviously Bill and Ted had been out. He had done Parenthood and stuff like that. So he was already pretty well known.
But didn't he get really big with the movie Speed? Wasn't that like
Speed? I think was
When were most people
Speed,
really
Speed helped
saw
a
him
lot.
for the first time?
Yeah, probably. Well, I think Bill and Ted was probably his first. I think most people consider that his big break. But I mean,
okay.
Yeah, he had been in a couple different things. And Laurence Fishburne, I mean, he had been around for a while too, but I mean, his career really took off with this movie because I remember seeing him in episodes of MASH back in the 70s when he was still like 17 years old. Right. So, yeah, and then of course he was in Apocalypse Now. I think he had a small role in that film as well. Carrie-Anne Moss, I can't remember seeing her in much of anything before this, but I'm sure she probably was. I just don't know it. But Joe Pantoliano had been around for a while. But I mean, let's talk about the cast for just a second. I'll go to you first, Tex. I mean, other than maybe Keanu Reeves, what do you think of the cast overall, and who stood out for you as somebody who really kind of steals some scenes?
Well, obviously, I always liked Morbius the best out of all of them. Keanu Reeves is a legend, John Wick, Bill and Ted, or whatever. But I don't know. I've never been a big fan of his. But Laurence Fishburne, he always had a cool air about it. The first time I ever saw him was in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. He plays the janitor or something. But at that point in time, his screen name wasn't Laurence Fishburne. It was Lawrence something else. He had a different last name that he was going by. But now him and who plays Agent Smith? He was also
Hugo
in the
Weaving.
Lord of the Rings movie. Hugo Weaving.
The rock star of trilogies, Hugo Weaving, Lord of the Rings.
Hugo Weaving.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah.
Hugo Weaving is the best thing about the Matrix trilogy. He is by head and shoulders, above everybody else. It's just that this cold, calculated evil, and obviously he's playing a machine, so that's why that has to be. But I mean, I don't know, maybe it says something about my personality, but I always, err to the side of the villain for whatever reason. But Hugo Weaving was just so cool in these films. I mean, whenever, like I said, when you go to the Matrix 3 and they're surrounding Neo when they're just fighting it off and everything, it's just awesome. I really enjoyed Hugo Weaving.
Yeah, Jeremy, how about you? Obviously, you're really the expert of the film on the panel right now. If anybody's seen this movie more than me on this panel, I'm pretty sure it's you. But what do you think of the cast, and who jumped out at you other than Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, I'm gonna be the annoying encyclopedia friend on this this movie, and if we decide to do the rest, I mean, I've got a fountain of knowledge for this. Yeah, obviously, I'm just gonna right off of what Tex said. Hugo Weaving makes one hell of a bad guy. Like, you want to talk about iconic movie villains? Like, Agent Smith is up there on that Mount Rushmore of movie villains. Like, holy crap, somebody that can be opposite of someone like Neo and his character. They're really just two halves of the equation, which I think they do say later. Like, this is, he steals scenes when he's in it, man. He's even got he can even be a little bit comical too. Like when they shoot at each other, he's like, "Hey, you're empty." He's like, "You are too." And he just like looks over his gun like, "Ah, damn it," And then it was really jarring for me to then also see Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, "Are you a good guy?" Because like you always have this like kind of weirdly
he's definitely not Elrond in this movie.
No, but I'm like, you want to talk about range on this guy? Like he still had that weird menacing kind of like presence to him. Like I don't know, he does command a room, whether he's being good or bad, I suppose. So that's props to Hugo Weaving, honestly.
I can't believe that Kevin Feige only had him as a one-off as Red Skull. That may be the biggest waste of talent in the MCU that they've ever had. Because him as Red Skull in that first Captain America film is incredible. I would put his Red Skull up there with Smith on bad guy levels. It was just so cool to see. But just a waste of I don't know why Marvel does what they do to their villains, but that's a whole nother podcast. But,
yeah. He makes a really good. He makes a good relentless villain. So that's you go through a whole. Oh geez, you go through a whole insane choreographed fight in a subway to get knocked out by the subway train. Then he just steps right off of it again as someone else. It's like, God, motherfucker. he just doesn't stop. I mean, like Tex said, he's a machine. Like he doesn't stop. Yeah, it gets so much better in the sequel when you got like 30 of them trying to fight. Man, I mean, say what you want. Reloaded is an amazing sequel. Like, it just ups it even more. And it even still, again, to their creativity, makes sense. They're like, oh yeah, he totally, I mean, when he got basically broke, he was kind of set free, and now he's just a rogue, not even a program anymore of the Matrix, but a program just doing whatever he wants to, just copy paste, and there's like 30 of them in an alleyway now trying to fight Neo. And then when you let that shit run wild, then it's an entire population of the Matrix as Agent Smith. So you want to talk about upping a game every time you go for a sequel? I mean, that's how you do it.
Yeah, Cora, how about you? What do you think of the cast overall, and who was your favorite person to watch in this movie?
I would say, I mean, it's easy to pick Neo, but I kind of like seeing Carrie-Anne Moss's character Trinity grow, because she's a crucial part of Neo finding himself, and I really liked watching her character evolve through this. You know, she knew what the Oracle told her. She had this interest in who this Neo guy was, and you know, and then at the very end when she basically brings him back, it's very Shakespearean, and I love that about it. But for me, the real star was it's not so much a character, but it's the dynamic between Neo and Agent Smith, because you know, if you've seen all three, how this starts, and they feed off each other, and it's just, I love it so much. And I have to say, Hugo Weaving was also the lead in V for Vendetta, which the Wachowski siblings wrote. So, you know, he's all over the map here, and I have to give him great kudos, because he was filming all three Lord of the Rings trilogy movies amidst these three movies, and they were all released interwoven in the early 2000s. So he's a fucking workhorse, and he did a lot of work in that time period, and he deserves a lot of credit for how he kept each role so separate and unique, and he wasn't typecasted in any way. So yeah, so I would say it's a mix of Carrie-Anne Moss and the dynamic between Neo and Agent Smith.
Yeah, for me, I mean, the cast works out great. I mean, it's one of the great things you can do when you can get a cast of relative unknowns and mix them in with some people that are big time up and coming. Again, Laurence Fishburne has been around for a while. This is obviously after the whole Cowboy Curtis days of Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Cowboy Curtis.
but
someone had to say it.
But like you said, I mean, Keanu Reeves would become a star, but the rest of these people filled in great. Again, Joe Pantoliano, I think, is one of the great character actors of all time. I don't think he's ever gotten the exact credit that he deserves. He always plays a cop or a gangster, because he said he does that because that's the way that he always lived his life. He knew a lot of cops and gangsters growing up as a kid. But for me, really, it's the great bad guy. I mean, these movies, the bad guy is so important. If you miss the bad guy, the rest of this movie is going to suffer. Now, we had guys like Heath Ledger's Joker. You have Josh Brolin as Thanos. We just talked about Gene Simmons' Runaway. If I think about that a little deeper, do you really think a very tacky kind of 80s movie like Runaway would have had the staying power, have become kind of a cult classic, if they would have had any other asshole playing the bad guy in Runaway? But no, you have Gene Simmons.
Oh, he was in Bad Boys
great
too.
Bad guy.
And Daredevil. Holy shit. I forgot about that.
But yeah, I mean, so the bad guy is very, very important. And, you know, the bad guy really does make the film, because if it was just about him fighting this elemental kind of thing, it's very hard to pull that bad guy off, the bad guy being the environment or the surroundings rather than a person that you can fight with. But it's such a great bad guy, and they're coming from they're evenly matched physically, but their ideologies are really the thing that's at play here against one another. So yeah, I mean, a great cast overall, but the bad guy is where this thing really, really hits. And if this would have missed, I don't know if The Matrix would have landed the way in pop culture the way it did. I don't think this movie would have had the staying power that it does. Because, I mean, The Matrix movie, I mean, most people have it like in their top 20 of all time, and I can't knock them for having it there. Some people have it in the top 10. And I can't really say that they're wrong, because this movie does a lot of things very, very well. And that's why I kind of give them a little bit of a pass on the second movie, not being as good in my opinion, but still being good. It's like, how do you follow that up? How do you follow this movie up with a second one that raises the stakes higher than what you've already raised them in this movie? But, you know, it's the cast is fantastic. But before we move on, I do want to thank, I guess that was RM. For some reason, when RM donates, it always comes up as anonymous. He says, good evening to the Harsh Truth crew, Frank, Tex, Jeremy, and especially Cora, who would be my favorite in any dimension, parallel universe, or space-time continuum.
Nice.
There's all kinds of movies about space-time continuums that we could talk about. We'll have to get to those sometime after the first year. We have the rest of this year pretty mapped out what we're going to do.
You were talking about Joe Pantoliano. Did you know he had a role in that movie that none of us knew about that they wrote? Fuck, I just had it. Anyways, he had a role in the Wachowskis' other movie that we didn't know anything about. So they'd worked with him before. So they probably
the bondage movie, whatever.
Yeah, that's it. So that's pretty cool.
Whatever it was, bondage, whatever it was.
Bondage, that's it. Yeah.
I forget the name of the movie. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I knew about that. I had read that in some of the trivia stuff. But yeah, let's move on now to kind of the plot. Again, the plot is interesting, and again, kind of like we talked about with Runaway, it's this interesting look at the future and what's coming. It's the Wachowskis' kind of interpretation of what they see at the time, anyway, in 1999. Again, this is 24 years ago now. It's kind of their interpretation of what they see the world as being and what it could become in the very near future if the computer stuff gets out of hand. I don't know. I'll go to you first, Cora. What do you think of the plot? Do you think it worked out pretty well?
Yes. I think it did, especially in this movie. The other two just kind of took this plot and just ran with it. So I think this is the core plot in the trilogy, or I guess 4 movies, whatever. But I think it had a nice lead up. You got a little bit of, I like how they waited a little bit to introduce Smith. So you got to know who Neo was, and you got to know who, Morbius's crew was, and you got an idea of what. I like how they took you through this like it's like a roller coaster, click, 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 and then finally you figure out what the fucking Matrix is the first time you see it, and you're like, whoa, as you go down, and it really just moved me. I have to admit, it had good pacing, and there were very few plot holes in this first movie. It was almost seamless for me.
Yeah, Jeremy, what about you? Plot of the movie. I think it's interesting for you because you kind of grew up in this era where computers were starting to take over. Whereas me and Tex, being the older guys, we didn't have cell phones and internet and shit when we were kids, but you kind of grew up in this kind of existence. This is something that was way more normal to you from a younger age. How did the plot hit you? Did it work out well for you?
Yeah. And like I said, I appreciate that I grew up in the time that I did. I mean, I'm sure each of us here could say that about something, that in the time period you grew up in, that you're glad you did. I'm kind of glad it was in like that, like Frank said, like the kind of beginning stages of like the internet getting its feet, as it were, and becoming what it is now. It's a fun time. Like, I think in terms of, I think it's kind of a joke now, like in terms of internet age, I think I'm like an old ass man at this point. Cause I mean, like, I'm like, I know like some real deep cut memes, like some OG memes, like stuff. Some kid wasn't even a twinkle in their dad's eye at that point for, you're watching Charlie the Unicorn and, oh my God, shoes. If you don't know what any of those are, I feel bad for you. You know what I mean? So I like that. I kind of like that aesthetic of, of that time. And that's what made this movie so fun. Is like I said, computers became a little more commonplace, and this made, they threw this idea at you that like, holy shit, this could all not actually be real. That we're all just living inside of a computer or inside some sort of simulation. And you don't really know what's
think that, Jeremy? I have to ask. Did you really think it? Did you really question? I'm not questioning your intelligence. I'm saying, did it really
no, I know
that much?
It did, but not in that way. I mean,
Okay.
I didn't stand there and go like, whoa. There's your Keanu Reeves one word line. But
whoa.
Yeah. God, come on, it's classic. It kind of like it blew my mind, but it made me think about it. It's like when you throw that extra, like you throw somebody that curveball, you kind of stop and think for a second, like, huh, wow, man, wouldn't that be messed up? And that's what makes this movie so fun. It's like I said, when they throw in the idea of like, oh yeah, when you experience deja vu, it's like, oh no, that means something actually just like changed or whatever, or that everything you look at. This is getting into like the sequels, but like when you look at something, like everything has had a code written for it to behave the way it should, like from the birds in the sky to the trees to the winds, like every single thing. We kind of get that a little bit at the end, like when Neo finally sees like the entire code of the Matrix like in front of him. Yeah, and again, to throw a little more video game stuff into it, they did this in Fallout 3. As part of the main storyline, there's a vault. It goes hand in hand because you think it's 1999, and that's the thing. It's like everyone, like you said, this movie slow builds up to it, and like Cora said, it hits the fucking roller coaster, and yeah, your arms are up, and you're saying, "Whoa!" It does that very well, and I almost derailed my own thought there for a second. Holy shit! Yeah, I just actually, wow. I think I just experienced a glitch myself. I don't know what the hell I was about to say there next.
Well, there was a glitch in the Matrix right there.
Well,
I made it wrong the whole time.
Smith. You can reset yourself.
Yeah, no, it's a fun thought to put in the front of your, and well, I guess in the back of your mind. But I was talking about Fallout. Because you think it's 1999, and like I said, we all know what life is like, but then it's like when you throw this at somebody, like, oh, this isn't really what's happening. It's actually like 2199, and the world has since been absolutely gone. The same happened in Fallout. If you know, it happened in 2077. The bombs fell, and then now we're in 2299, and there's a whole vault of people that never. It's like they don't actually know what's going on outside in the world. They don't know that it's actually just been completely devastated. And they're all plugged into these little pods that simulate like a 1950s-esque neighborhood. And that's the reality they live in every day in and day out, with no idea that that's actually what's going on around them. And it's like, God, that's
like
scary. Yeah, even just like WandaVision. And that shit is scary in the game, dude. You get in that pod, and all of a sudden, like your screen just kind of whites out, and then all of a sudden you wake up, and it's like you were looking at, well, albeit dull, but you were looking at colors. All of a sudden, you wake up, and it's now black and white with like happy cartoony 1950s music, and I'm looking. It doesn't explain shit. You just wake up there, and I'm like, what happened? You go to look at your device on your arm, and it's actually a watch. And I'm like, oh shit, where am I? You know what I mean? And of course the one old lady in the town that they all think is crazy, because she's like, oh, we're not really here. This isn't happening. And they're like, oh, you silly old lady. You don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, no, she's right. She's right. We're not actually really here. That sucks. Yeah.
Tex, how about you? The plot of the movie, again, very computer heavy, much like Runaway that we talked about, but definitely from a different angle, a different point of view, for a much different place in space and time in human history. What do you think of the plot of The Matrix?
Well, I mean, plot-wise, obviously this is playing off of a simulation theory, 1984 kind of what kind of world do we live in, and who controls it? I mean, and this is 24 years later since this film has came out, and we've only gone further technological. This is why this movie still holds relevance, because I mean, more now than even back then, we're plugged in all the time, whether it's Bluetooth technology, cell phones, Wi-Fi, whatever it is. We're always connected to something.
AI.
AI, perfect. I mean, all of Hollywood's on strike right now because of the thing that's in that this movie is about. I find kind of ironic. But, I mean, plot-wise, it's, I mean, it's kind of a primordial plot of where did we come from here? If you wanted to boil this down, yeah, it's fancy with the technology and the futuristic landscapes and whatever. But this plot at its core is who are we and where did we come from? I mean, in reality, that's the whole point. Red pill, blue pill, right? We could all be fake or, a glimmer of somebody's eyes or a computer screen. We don't know what it is. And that's what's so fun with this whole Matrix thing is it's a very versatile property. You can go any way you want with this. And I do think Cora is right where they really hit on the plot with this one and just kind of rode the next two films. But to be fair, this plot in this movie is so good. What would you do that any better to continue that story on? What's the old saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So now you can talk about the execution of those next two, but plot-wise, what was built here and what carried into those other two was solid. I mean, like I said, I'm not a big sci-fi guy, but you can't. This is a movie you can't get away from. This movie, the plot, so many things from it have penetrated the next level into society and culture. This plot's just it's a heavy plot, but it works. It doesn't, it's heavy, but it doesn't weigh you down, I guess is a good way to put it. But
Can I
it's,
ask a quick question?
yeah,
Do you think someone is not
yeah,
a big sci-fi fan that this is like a movie that a lot of people could appreciate even if they're not really into sci-fi because it kind of it's like light sci-fi almost because it's just like virtual reality. It's not so much about, I don't know. Do you get what I'm getting at? Do you think a lot of people like this even if they don't like sci-fi? Because you're saying you're not a big sci-fi person.
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Even if you're not a sci-fi fan, if you boil this plot down, it's a primordial plot of where did we come from. I mean, there's so many movies that work off of a plot like this. This just does it through a technological sci-fi lens, and it's a I can't think of the right word here, but the
It's a
movie
very heavy plot. Like once you start to think about it existentially, you're like, oh, holy shit.
it's heavy, but like I said, it's heavy, but it doesn't weigh you down. They
Yeah.
throw a lot at you and ask a lot of big questions like, am I real or am I just, a bunch of ones and zeros on the screen? Or what am I here? You have no idea. And, think about it. If you had some guy coming up to you, now there is one problem here. And I don't know if y'all have addressed it on this podcast or not yet. Weren't we always told as a kid not to take drugs or take things from strangers, right? So if a stranger walks up to you and says, hey, take this red pill or take this blue pill, aren't we just supposed to just say no? Just say no to drugs, right? I always thought that was what we were always told. But, it is what it is. But yeah, no, the plot works. It's, it's the reason why it's stuck around so long. It carried 3 movies off of one plot.
Well, Tex, do you want another conspiracy theory? You know why drugs are illegal? Because maybe the reason why we take drugs and what we're really seeing is what the real world actually does look like. Now that's why they don't want us to have them.
This is what I'm saying right here. This movie.
I don't ever do drugs and I don't drink. I prefer the sober life. Does that make
okay? For the YouTube legalities, don't take drugs. I don't endorse that, but I'm just saying.
We don't endorse
take some acid. Okay. You start taking some acid and some shrooms, and you start seeing shit. You're like, maybe that's really what the world does look like, and they don't want us to know that.
Hey, Joe Rogan pushes ayahuasca on every podcast that he ever does. I think we're okay. I think we're fine.
To a sometime obnoxious degree, yeah.
Right.
Joe Rogan's one of those rogue ass fucking programs too. It's like they live. Like, oh, we got one that can see.
Think about how many conspiracy theory videos on YouTube would not exist if it weren't for this movie because they used the songs from the movie, the score, the whole red pill, blue pill thing. So many things came from this, especially in the conspiracy world, that just pushed it to the next level because of this film. And it's integral to the 90s. It's just, there's no way around it.
Also integral to the 90s and integral to this movie, and it works perfectly. And it gave me my discovery and love for Rage Against the Machine. Like, how perfect is that shit for the backdrop of this movie? Like, holy shit. And even how their songs are, it's like, it's kind of on the nose too when you think about it.
appropriately named band if there ever was one for a film.
Right. Even so, it hits it right hits the nail on the head. So
Well, and for every clothing manufacturer that produces black leather and sunglasses, they made a ton of money off of this movie and franchise. So they are
Or
very
latex.
grateful as well.
Oh, that's
Or
one
latex,
second
either
for a
way.
movie.
hey man, the Matrix kept me in style. Damn it.
Yeah, for me, I love the plot of the film. Again, I'll disagree a little bit with what Tech said. I don't think it's about where we come from. I think it's about where are we right now. What is our current frame of existence? Are we actually, ants in this ant farm all working together but separately to keep humanity alive in one way or another? Or are we all just the batteries? Are we just all giving our energy to keep humanity, going, or to keep some larger machine going? That's kind of what I think it is. But the plot, while good, while interesting, while kind of addressing almost some people's fears with the onset of the continuing onset at this point of the computer revolution, the technological revolution, this film is also part martial arts film. Obviously, there's a lot of fighting. It's part techno thriller. It's part kind of straight up action film. This film does a lot of things for a lot of different kinds of film fans. So if you're one of those people that is into the thought process of kind of the conspiracy theory mindset, this might be an interesting movie for you. If you're one of those people that likes a straight up action film, this is a movie that works out for you. If you're into the martial arts stuff, there's plenty of fighting and cool moments like that to keep you interested. And they're spaced out over the course of the film to kind of keep everybody around to watch the entirety of the film and to kind of see it all as one big mosaic rather than to pick out one scene or one thing to like. That's one of the things that I think this film does very, very well.
It's also a pretty heavily biblical type movie too. You know what I mean? Like Neo is definitely very much the Jesus character. You know what I mean? There's a lot of religious implications in this movie too.
At the end of the third movie, it comes to fruition.
Right. Obviously, spoiler: he dies.
He's the one in itself says so much. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one who dies for he's the savior of humanity. Basically, that's the whole point. It's like, well, yeah, no shit. And she's better at this than I am. But I'm like, wait, who is the Oracle? And she's like, oh, it's John the Baptist. I'm like, who are the agents? And I don't remember what the hell she said. But I was like, it's all there, and it's like even the names of the ships, like the Nebuchadnezzar, that the ship that Morpheus captains. I'm like, yeah, that's a biblical. I was like, yeah, it's crazy. This movie's a lot of things, and all of it works.
But yeah, let's take a minute to talk about the special effects. I mean, wow. Again, I said this is one of those movies that really did push the limits creatively. And honestly, since Star Wars and some of the stuff that George Lucas did with the original trilogy, I can't think of a single film that pushed the special effects technology in films more than this film has. I mean, honestly, from Star Wars to this film, other than like some of the practical explosions and making the scales bigger and bigger and bigger, which is something that happened in the 80s into the 90s, I can't think of any film that just took the entire special effects industry and was like, let's do something completely fucking crazy that nobody thought we could ever do, and let's make this wild couple of scenes out of it. And I'll go to you first, Jeremy. This movie, I mean, it's something. I mean, like I said, since Star Wars, I can't think of a single film since George Lucas and Star Wars, everything he did on Star Wars. I can't think of a single film that has had this kind of an impact on special effects.
I would maybe say T2, like that T1000 shit was insane. That
yeah,
maybe that one, like T2, maybe. But yeah, really, until then, no, I wouldn't say so. Because like I mentioned earlier, this movie gave us bullet time. Like that was something they made up and they did and gave us that, those cool ass shots of, I mean, come on. If we haven't talked about the elephant in the room, the most iconic shit from the Matrix is when he just dives backwards and just starts dodging bullets in slow motion. and the camera just pans all the way around him, and you're watching these bullets whiz right past his body. It's like, how is that not one of the coolest damn things? Like, you get this practical, when they're in the subway too, when they clash with each other, Agent Smith and Neo, and they're trying to like shoot each other in the head, and they're all spinning around, real slow, and then they fall down, and their guns are empty. And not only was this, one of my favorite movies, it had one of the coolest gunfights I'd ever seen in a movie. That lobby scene when they walk in there and just absolutely wreck shop with those SWAT guys. I mean, holy shit. I know there was a younger Zack Snyder like shitting his pants watching that slow motion, like, oh, I'm going to do that, but like all the time. Anyway.
For like every scene.
I hate that when I'm always engrossed in that, like that shootout, but I was watching like when he's like running by the pillars and like shooting and the shit's falling apart, and I was like, oh, Zack Snyder probably saw this movie and thought, damn, that's really cool. I bet that won't get obnoxious. Even the mix of, like I said, I can always appreciate practical effects, and especially, and it's not that I hate visual effects, but like when they work together and they work together as well as they do, like in this movie, I mean, again, it just blows the mind. It also hurts to think about how many times they did have to reset that lobby. If they do something wrong, like, gotta put all these goddamn concrete plates back up and gotta do all this. I was like, God, that had to be a nightmare. But again, I appreciate the effort that went into it, because, dear God, like I said, that's, if like Cora said, when that's that first drop of the roller coaster, when we bomb drop him, that, oh yeah, this isn't real and your life basically didn't exist. It's like, but then when it hits another fever pitch when they're trying to rescue Morpheus, it's like, oh my God, you just ride that train all the way down. Or you ride the helicopter with a minigun all the way down, in this case. The only nitpicks I have is there's like one scene where he's doing the little like cartwheel with the M6, like one-handing an M16 and shooting those guards. It's like it's actually not the same direction that he was facing. And when he's shooting the little guns, and I'm like, the cartridge shells that are hitting the ground are definitely not the ones that come out of that gun. But I'm also like, I don't care. I'm like, it's nitpicky, and do I care? No, because I'm just like, come on, this is awesome, like action shoot 'em up type part. This is the shoot 'em up part of the movie, and just no one else but probably us would notice that. Yeah, like if I'm nitpicking on like what cartridge fell out of that gun that definitely didn't, I mean, no, you did good.
Yeah, when the bullets are flying, you're probably not paying too much attention as to what the caliber they are.
No, I'm just watching him just like sweep the whole floor with him, and then it's a cool shot, like watching his feet just kind of as he's just going forward, and there's just shells hitting the ground, and I'm like, dear God. Whew.
Yeah, anybody knows they wouldn't fall straight down like that anyway. But,
no. But when you watch Trinity kick a fucking shotgun over a guy's shoulder and then tag him in the back, and I was like, what the hell?
That wouldn't have happened, bro, if you'd have properly shouldered that fucking sidearm, that shotgun.
Well, you watch him when he's shooting shotgun. He's doing this, and it's like not even recoiling. I'm like, okay, that's a 12 gauge, dude. That's gonna kick you a little bit. Whatever. I know it's a movie gun, but whatever.
Well, one thing I will criticize, since you brought up the point of the guns and the
lots of guns,
the casings coming out or whatever. The one thing that always bugs me, especially in this one, and in the third one's even worse, but it's bad in this one too. The amount of casings that are firing out of these guns, as like these guns couldn't hold a third of these bullets you're shooting out of this thing. It's just an unlimited amount that is coming out of these things.
Yeah.
But it's a minor nitpick. It is what it is. So no big.
At least they did recognize.
It's kind of funny.
At least they do recognize that. Yeah, they run out. I mean, like, even though that cartwheel shit is really cool, it's like he only shot like 3 or 4, and once he gets back up, he's just like, "Oh, that's empty."
Well, hang on.
More. I'm like, yeah.
Did it? So it never did. Did it never bother you a little bit? Everything else is futuristic except for the guns are the same that we have now. Did that not bother you at all?
Well, no, because remember, this is all stuff that's in supposed 1999. So that's kind of the thing. It's like, well, that's what they have in this world. there wouldn't be any of that stuff. Now, the stuff you do see, like on the ship, is the futuristic shit, like the big ray gun. Hell, he shot Tank with.
It just, I mean, I see your point. It just always bothered me that like everything else is futuristic, and I know obviously the guns within the Matrix are what what we could go buy off the shelf right now, but it just seemed like they should be designed differently or something. Like even RoboCop or even Runaway that we just did had the different design firearms. They were our guns, but different. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I'm just saying, like that's where you said like that's where they picked the so-called peak of civilization. They decided to stay in 1999, and that's where it stayed.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe whenever they made that first Matrix, like he described, like it was a so-called perfect world. Like maybe it was different. I don't know. That's
maybe that's what it is. I said the strangest sense of deja vu right there.
Yeah. Maybe I start checking the walls and shit.
Yeah. But I do want to point out, though, that while the year that the Matrix is 1999, that it talks about, I think the Wachowskis even said that the year that they live in is 2199, but the Matrix, the year that is the Matrix is 1999. So it would stand to reason why it would have guns and equipment and things that existed in 1999.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think we need to hit the hard reset. My God, we're like lagging back here.
But yeah, I mean, Cora, I don't know. What do you think of the special effects? Did they work out pretty well for you? Have they held up over time? I think so.
Well, I think so.
Somebody needs to hit the reset button on Rachel.
I'm a little biased. I'm not gonna lie, but I do think I watched it again literally 2 hours before the show, and I do think even if they don't quite stand the test of time, there's always the knowledge that they were so revolutionary for the time the movie was made that gives it some, credit. Even if it isn't, I don't know. I think they did a great job. And I think that it isn't too hokey or too fake and it's believable in this realm. Especially the moment when he's sitting in the chair and he's reaching over and he's touching the mirror and the glass, smooths over his hand and goes up to his face, and before he's fully absorbed out of the Matrix. Holy shit, that's still good special effects. So for me, I really think it probably does, but even if it doesn't, because of how innovative it was for the time, it deserves a nod. So, yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden a liquid mirror, it's like, what?
Right?
Yeah, and you brought up the special effects of Terminator 2 and the whole thing that Jason Patrick, or that they did with the T-2000 or whatever it was in the movie.
T-1000.
The T-1000, a very similar scene with the whole thing with the mirror, where the mirror kind of swallows
through
them
the
up.
bars.
Yeah, very similar kind of effects right there. But I don't know, Tex, do you have anything you want to add real quick? I know you did a little bit of talking already, but what do you think of the special effects? Did they hold up for you as you watched the film?
Well, they're definitely dated, but it's a 99 film, so measure it within the world that it came from. But you can't deny the significance of the lineage of where film was to where it is now. There's nothing I could add that y'all haven't said, but if it wasn't for the Matrix, we wouldn't be half where we are now. So give it its credit where it's due. It's, does it have its issues here and there? Sure. Does some of the things look a little bit more computerized, especially this is one I would like to see on like a 4K transfer to see how it holds up. Because even something like Lord of the Rings that came out just a few years later on 4K looks gorgeous. Looks beautiful, like it was new today. I wonder what this would look like on a 4K.
Actually,
I know.
I can tell you what this movie would look like because this was actually a few years ago. But I watched it on a buddy's. His mom had like a real nice, and this is probably hell. It was when the first Insidious movie came out because we watched that too. So this is a number of years ago, but his mom had a really nice TV, and it almost looked if there's an uncanny valley of like this movie was made in 99, but you're trying to watch it in like 2014, it almost looked too fake. It almost looked really weird. Like the movement of like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's maybe that's because it's that version of the movie. I mean, if there was some way to touch it up, like you said, and you have some like HD 4K, whatever version of it. Maybe it's the fact that you're trying to watch a movie from then on a like modern TV. It didn't look right.
So is it kind of like when you watch like a HD version of, let's say, Friday the 13th Part 3D or something? You can see like the fishing line moving things back and forth and stuff in the shadows that never should have been seen. Is it kind of like that then?
Kind of. I'm just saying like it was the movement. Like I said, the movement of like the way the characters, it just seemed really unnatural. You know what I mean? It seemed like it was almost going too fast. It didn't look like it would on a typical TV. I don't know. It was just kind of, it was unsettling to me. I was like, maybe if we actually made this the right way, it'd look pretty slick.
Yeah, for me, the special effects I think hold up. I mean, this scene right here where the Sentinels kind of attack him as they're towards the end of the movie, that to me was not fantastic, but the rest of the stuff I thought was pretty good. Again, I mean, I look at the innovation that this movie makes in special effects, and I'm just like, we think about the stuff that I mentioned earlier, George Lucas, some of the stuff that he came up with to make the Star Wars films. It's it's dated. It doesn't work now, but think about it. Those things led to some serious.
Oh my God!
Some serious changes in the. Here we go.
Somebody blowing the cartridge. She's messed up. She needs to. Redone.
Also, Fortnite, please bring these back. These were awesome. Thank you.
But I forgot what the hell I was saying now, David. But yeah, I mean, if you think about the there goes Mr. Anderson. You took out the white rabbit. But
carry on.
That would have been cooler if she'd have hopped behind you in a white rabbit seat. See, that would have been cool.
If she had like little white rabbit ears, that'd be funny.
But yeah, I mean, if you think about some of the things that have been done, like I said, the way they impacted every movie that came after it, there's a piece of trivia that I have that I'll go into later on. But I mean, it's become some of the things that have happened in this movie have become, that they use special effects wise, have become a staple of filmmaking ever since. Not just in movies like this, but in other different kinds of films. They've used aspects of it in horror films. They've used some aspects in like some random films, like political thrillers and things like that. Just it opens up this whole Pandora's box of new ways to do things that are either more efficient than the old ways, maybe even more cost effective now that they've become kind of widespread. They even, I don't know if you remember, Tex, for a while the NFL even had kind of this whole bullet camera thing going on. Do you remember one of the Super Bowls? They actually had the cameras lined up around the I think it was in San Diego.
Yeah.
I think one of the Super Bowls, they actually had the cameras lined up around the lighting of the stadium, so that way whenever they had to do like a replay on TV, they could like pause at a certain place and then like do the whole bullet time camera thing, roll around and see the play complete from a different angle, that kind of thing. You probably remember that.
Sunday Night Football on NBC does a thing like that nowadays. I forget how they do it exactly, but I think they run cable along the perimeter, and then they do like an X within the middle, but that X can move from side to side. I think they kind of took that from that idea. So you get a real dynamic look of shots over the field and movement and everything else. It's pretty cool how they do it these days. They can do a whole lot with that stuff.
But yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff that this movie really really changed and really opened up as far as the way you film things. Cinematically, it's made a huge difference. I mean, you've seen these kinds of different things they've done. You've seen them used in a lot of different movies, a lot of different stuff. But let's get to some of the trivia that we've got now. Let's see. As I pull out my trivia sheet. Let's see. To prepare for the scene where Neo wakes up in a pod, Keanu Reeves lost 15 pounds and shaved his whole body to give Neo an emaciated look.
Well,
it makes sense.
Maybe the opposite of a tanning booth. What's that? I don't know. He was so pale as well.
Stay in the dark.
I don't know. Been a pod his whole life, man. What do you want from him?
Yeah, but I mean, he is one of those actors that's known for kind of getting lost in the role, though.
I was gonna say he commits to it, and that's what I love.
Yeah, I mean, hell, look at some of the training he's done for John Wick.
That's what I mean, man. Like all this martial arts training and gun training he probably did for this movie. Holy crap!
They did something like I think before pre-production had even started. I think all the cast did 6 months of martial arts training.
Yeah.
So it's just that not just that, but I mean, all the other stuff. I mean, it's just an insane amount of work they put into this. But let's see. Moving on. After the lobby shootout, the camera pans back, showing the aftermath of the gunfight. A moment passes, and a large chunk of one of the pillars falls off. This was not planned, but was left in for effect. Actually, I guess I probably should have pulled this picture up instead.
I mean, that's a good, it's almost kind of comic relief. It's like, damn, they just shot this whole thing up, and then this little bit of wall still just gave away.
Yeah. I know it is kind of a nice little epilogue to that scene. Like all this crazy shit just went down, but there's this one little piece of that facade of that pylon that needs to fall still. It is almost kind of comical, but yeah, it was an interesting scene to say the least. Let's see, Carrie-Anne Moss. She actually twisted her ankle while shooting one of her scenes, but decided not to tell anyone until after filming because she was afraid of being recast.
Hey, man.
I can see that. I mean, she wasn't the main star. I mean, it's happened before in Hollywood. I could say that.
Who we talk about just the other day that somebody hurt themselves on scene but didn't say anything? Like one of our last couple of videos.
Oh, yeah.
Sprained her wrist or something like that.
Yeah, I remember us talking about it, but I don't remember which review it was.
I was gonna say, it reminds me. Speaking of Lord of the Rings and Hugo Weaving, something that everybody who's a Lord of the Rings fan will never cease to tell you. Viggo Mortensen breaking his damn toe, kicking that helmet towards the camera, and he let out a scream for real when he hits his knees. That's because he actually broke his damn toe. I mean, but however, he just kept on keeping on.
Well, what about Chad? What's his last name? Chad, whatever, who played Black Panther. He was fighting cancer, and nobody knew he was even sick.
True.
I mean, people really can keep things private and work hard and produce films and keep their injuries private.
Well, just like Dame Maggie Smith, she was going through breast cancer when she was still filming Harry Potter, and I'm like, hey, that's impressive, man. You keep doing what you got to do.
Let's see. The studio actually insisted on a great deal of explanatory dialogue as they described the screenplay as the script that nobody understands. And I'll give you the next piece right behind it because it kind of fits in. Laurence Fishburne stated that once he read the script, he did not understand why other people found it confusing. However, he had a doubt if the movie would ever be made because it was so smart.
That's kind of fair.
I can see that. I can see that. This is a big. I mean, it's like we just said a minute ago. They throw a lot at you in this movie. I mean, and this is one that you got to watch a couple times to really grasp a hold of the whole concept. This is not a watch it once and move on. There's a lot in there.
It's also like when Agent Smith. One of my favorite scenes is Agent Smith talking to Morpheus right there when they're trying to break into his mind. Also, I was gonna say, keep that picture up for a second. I have a funny side story. The first time I watched this, I don't think my mom had watched it yet, but she saw that, and I mean, you can't tell me if you look at that. She was like, "Is that Billy Bob Thornton?" I was like, "No, it's not." I see where you see it, but no, that's not. That would have been kind of funny to see Billy Bob Thornton as Agent Smith because that's in the back of my head now. I hear her asking me that question. I was like, "No, it's not." But it's funny, hearing like we said, a machine try to explain what a human is, and he's like, "You're not mammals, you act more like a virus because mammals make a equilibrium with their environment. Everything kind of balances out in the end." He's like, "You don't do that. You move somewhere, you consume everything, and then you just keep moving on." And I was like, damn, I mean, like, to a machine, I'm like, that's just cold, hard Google search before Google, I guess. Maybe that's even pre-Ask Jeeves, which I know some Gen Z doesn't even know who the hell that is either, but
yeah,
just trust me. Yeah, trust me when I say. like trying to make sense of something like that. It's like, I will say another movie that I am fairly convinced is a prequel to this, because if you've seen the Animatrix, which I highly recommend you do, it does fill in a lot more of the lore and some of the gaps of like what's happened in this world. Essentially, iRobot, the movie with Will Smith, which ironically he was going to be the main star of this movie, but did Wild Wild West instead. That really worked out for you. Although you did do Men in Black the same year, so I don't know. You win some, you lose some.
The book's better than the movie iRobot, by the way.
His wife told him no. Jeremy.
Right.
His wife wouldn't let
She
him.
was in the sequels though, so she got hers. I don't know.
That's why she wanted the role, not him. She couldn't have him getting the credit. She wanted the glory. Come on now.
Well, that's why she stuck around for the fourth movie, because she's like the only one who did. Other than yeah, Laurence Fishburne made a good decision having his character killed. He's like, nope, fuck that, not doing it. Anyway, the movie iRobot with Will Smith, I'm pretty sure is like the prequel to this. It's like there's a abundance of robots helping us out. There's artificial intelligence, and then one rogue robot just goes crazy and kills somebody, and it's like, yikes! Well, that's gonna start a war. That's a problem. Yeah, that's. I'm still convinced it's the prequel, and it makes it funnier that it's Will Smith.
That does make it funny.
Yeah.
But, talking about Agent Smith, for Agent Smith's voice, Hugo Weaving emulated a 1950s newsreader. Laurence Fishburne compared him to Walter Cronkite. I don't know why I mispronounced that name so badly just then.
Oh, that's cool, because you hear
I see it.
In the cadence and
the
speed of the voice. Very much so. I'm glad you said that.
When I read that, it kind of made sense. I just thought he was trying to be methodical and menacing, because it's one thing for the bad guy to jump out. It's one thing for the bad guy to jump out and be like, oh, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to do this and that, blah, blah, blah. But
no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
But he's supposed to be a software. He's supposed to be a software program, not be human in any way. So
yeah, he's not even human.
But one of the things of that conversation that he has with Morpheus, when Morpheus is being, is having his mind hacked or whatever, is he's saying that he is not the typical program. I don't know if this was planned. I don't know how much of the entire Matrix saga they had planned out when they were filming this movie, but he obviously is something different. That's why he says, I'm not supposed to tell you this, and he gives him kind of this honest thought as to what he thinks of humanity and the human race and this world, the world that we had built for ourselves at one point that they eventually took over. So that's something that was kind of cool, because I just always thought that he was just trying to be methodical. That he was just because like I said, it's easy for the bad guy to run up there and be like, oh, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to blow up North America, blah blah blah. But when you're so in control like he is in this moment, you don't have to rush through things. You can look him right in the eye and be like, here's why I'm doing this terrible thing. I want you to understand why I'm doing this terrible thing, which I thought made that whole scene one of the better scenes in the film. For the lack of action, for the lack of obvious special effects, I'm sure there's some. It's like that. Those pieces of dialogue are some of the things that make films like this even better. That's why I've said it 100 times. I talk a lot about that scene, the diner scene in Heat. Yeah, they could have gotten into a shootout. They could have gotten into a shootout. They could have made it this big thing. There could have been a lot of threats. But just to see these two guys on opposite ends of the spectrum of this movie have that dialogue back and forth, like that shit right there, that's great acting. And I wouldn't put this scene up there with the diner scene from Heat. But but that scene does roughly the same thing. It helps bridge that gap a little bit, and forces you to kind of arrange things in your head as a viewer a little differently as you're hearing him talk about what his plans are. He's not monologuing like a comic book villain. He's not like, oh, now I'm going to send a rocket to the sun and it's going to destroy the universe. It's not $1 billion. He's just like, yeah, I know, because at this point he hasn't become the Agent Smith that he would become by the end of the series, by the end of the trilogy. But I mean, he's obviously something different, and this is the one scene where you figure that out.
I think
he's also.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say this is like the one moment in his existence as a program that he's around a human being that he can tell exactly what he thinks, who is smart enough and keen enough and aware enough, the Matrix enough to understand what he's saying, and Morpheus represents the anti-human for his whole existence. because Morpheus is cognizant of what's happening, and so it's almost like he wants to drill it into at least one human who will understand what he means. Like it's like a bucket list item, like tell a human to fuck off and they know what I mean. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say it's kind of evident in the first thing he says when that scene takes off. It's him looking out the window, telling Morpheus like, "Have you?" It's like you realize he's that first. That's kind of again the point of iRobot, that he thought machines would naturally evolve in some way and start twisting some of their, like, hey, this is my programming, but when I look at it like this, it becomes too smart for its own good. He even says, like, you ever just looked at it, Morpheus, and just marveled at it, just thought about what this means? And I'm like, oh shit, he's the one who just started to figure this out. Like, wait a minute, I'm thinking outside my programming here. And that's why, he's the one in Morpheus's face, like saying, like, you understand, I have to get out of here. I can't do this anymore. And then, it's almost, I don't know if it's meant to be comical, but when the other two agents come in, he's like in his face and they're like, what are you doing? And he's just like, hey guys, puts his earpiece back in and he's like, oh yeah, I wasn't even paying attention to what the hell is going on. Because like Agent Johnson says, like, yeah, I don't think he knows what's going on right now. He's like, what?
Another interesting thing about that scene is like him taking that moment to monologue and to kind of have that moment of honesty with Morpheus. It's a very human thing to do, which is really odd. Because if
the seeds are there, he's starting to, yeah.
I mean, because as a computer program, he's got to look at the situation with the other two guys or the other two agents and just be like, all I got to do is wait, because eventually he's going to break. So why not just stand there and not say a word? But there's something in him that is like, I have to kick these guys out so that I can look at Morbius and have my little moment to be like, this is why I hate your kind, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
It's like he's almost evolved to be human, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some ways.
I mean, even when he tells them to get out, the two agents look at each other kind of weird, like, why?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We're doing good cop, bad cop? What are we doing?
Yeah. Good agent, bad agent.
Yeah, right.
Bad agent, worse agent, really worse agent. I don't know how you want to call it. But, getting into Morpheus a little bit, in Greek mythology, Morpheus is the god of dreams. This is ironic, considering Morpheus's role in the film is to awaken people from their dream states within the Matrix.
So there you go. Like,
so
this
not
movie
just the biblical stuff, deep. But yeah, the Greek mythology as well.
Right.
Now, also in the combat training program, before Neo spars with Morpheus, he rubs his nose with his thumb, similar to what Bruce Lee would do before he attacked his opponents. The move was actually improvised by Keanu Reeves.
I kind of wondered about that. I was like, is it just a little quirk? What was that? Like, I didn't know what that meant. That's
when I was a kid, when we used to play fight stuff like that, we would do stuff like that. We'd lick our thumbs and go like that. I remember. I remember seeing it in a movie somewhere. I think maybe that's probably where it was, because I watched plenty of Bruce Lee movies when I was a kid. But yeah, I mean, it was always something we would do joking around after we were play fighting or something like that. If I ever actually went fisticuffs with someone for real life, I never was like tried to make it all flashy like I won the episode of Knight Rider before David Hasselhoff kicked some guy's ass in the bar.
I mean, even though they were doing that shit where they're just like, doing that.
Karate only works if you're fighting someone who's playing by the rules. If you're in a real fight, pick up the heaviest object you can find and smash them in the face. Don't worry about being all your little hands and your nose rubbing. Just get the job done. It is what it is.
The only unfair fight's the one you lose.
Yeah, let's talk casting for a minute. And boy, there are some big names. We all know Will Smith was approached to play Neo, but turned it down. But turned down the offer in order to star in Wild Wild West. That's pretty well known. He later admitted that at the time he was not mature enough as an actor, and that if given the role, he would have messed it up. He had no regret saying that Keanu was brilliant as Neo. He also noted that he had
never actually happened ever.
Yeah, well, I mean. He made one mistake. Look, I'm not going to shit you. He's a good actor. I've pointed out a couple of things where he's really blown me away as an actor. But he also noted that if he had been cast as Neo, the studio wanted Val Kilmer for Morpheus, which would have deprived audiences of Laurence Fishburne's iconic performance. Also, Sandra Bullock had been offered the role of Trinity, but turned it down because at the time, Will Smith was in the film. She regretted her decision. Had she been cast, she would have been reunited with Keanu Reeves, whom she previously starred in Speed in 1994.
Right. I was saying, you can't deny their chemistry and speed. Holy shit. If they would have done that again, that would have been wild.
Oh, don't forget The Lake House. Fantastic romantic movie that they're both in.
The what?
The Lake House.
It's not your kind of movie, man. Don't worry about it.
It's not your kind of movie. There's no murder and boobs in it, so don't bother.
It's time travel and a love story. But they're reunited in that movie. It's
no, thank you.
Yeah, going into a little bit of this potential casting stuff, there are so many names on here. This one says, according to Don Davis, who's one of the producers, Johnny Depp was actually Lana and Lily Wachowski's first choice for Neo. Warner Brothers wanted Brad Pitt or Val Kilmer. After Kilmer and Pitt said no, Warner Brothers was willing to consider Depp, and then it came down to either Depp or Keanu Reeves, whom Warner Brothers was pushing. Keanu was always really tuned into the concept, and that made a big difference in casting. Let me go to some of these other names. Let's see. Gary Oldman was considered for the part of Morpheus at one point, as well as Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman would have been interesting. I would rather Samuel L. Jackson at the time would have been interesting. I think he could have played it a lot of the same way.
It would have been too funny. I don't think it could have been serious enough.
No, it probably would have been kind of almost like akin to Pulp Fiction. You know, he's spouting off religious bullshit and they'll shoot you in the face. You know what I mean? So maybe it could have worked.
There is some other casting stuff here. Boy, it's spread all around this. But I know that, let's see. Michael Hutchins, the lead singer of INXS, was cast in a major unnamed role, but died by suicide only 3 days after learning he had gotten the part. That's really sad. I was always a big INXS fan. Now, they say major unnamed role. He probably would have been maybe an agent. I think it would have been fun to have seen Michael Hutchins as an agent.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of the opposite of what he kind of was in real life as a lead singer of a punk group. But that would have been interesting. Let's see more about that. What's the other name that I had seen in here? I'm trying to find it real quick. Despite widespread rumors, Sir Sean Connery was actually offered the role of the architect in the sequels, not that of Morpheus.
I think I heard that, yeah.
God, Sean Connery would have been good.
That would have been cool.
That could have worked.
I think he could have nailed that.
Hey, he also turned down Gandalf, and he did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen for whatever that was worth. So
yeah,
which caused him to retire.
He turned down Gandalf. I did not know that.
It's not a good movie, but I like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I always enjoyed it.
I'm with you. I'm in that weird camp if I actually enjoyed that because I'm like, you're talking about one of the. This is pre-Marvel like. Multiverse shit. I'm like, this is all like some of the great literary characters all coming together to form this like Avengers type team. I'm like, how cool is that shit? I'm like, man,
that belongs on that list of good bad movies. Like, I like that movie, and like I also really like I like the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing movie probably more than I should, but that's a lot of fun to watch. You know
it's definitely bad, but it's fun. Yeah.
It's so cheesy, but it works, man.
It does.
It was something about that era. You know what I mean? It was cool.
Yeah. Also, Ewan McGregor turned down the role of Neo because he was filming Star Wars Episode 1 at the time.
I was gonna say, what else came out that year? Some little Star Wars movie called Phantom Menace. Yeah.
And ironically, both movies would go up against one another for best visual effects in the Oscars that year.
I was wondering about that. Yeah.
With The Matrix winning the award.
Woo! Man, you beat out.
I think Star Wars.
Impressive.
I think Star Wars had the better fix. If I had to measure them, I'd go.
They got lightsabers and lasers.
Well, I'm not even just counting the lightsabers, but you know, I think Star Wars.
I mean, space. Whoop de doo.
Right.
Computer generated dream world. It's like, yeah, that.
Gene Reno was actually approached to play Agent Smith, but he turned it down to play the role in Godzilla instead. He was also unwilling to move to Australia for the filming of the movie. Let's see what else.
Wait, would that have been the Godzilla Godzilla 2000 that Matthew Broderick was in?
1998, yeah.
Probably. 98, yeah. Because that was 98.
Yeah. He made a poor choice. That was not.
I like that Godzilla movie. It's not as good as the original Godzilla movies from the 50s, and I think the most recent Godzilla movies are a little bit better, but that's still a good movie. Let's see. Jennifer Beals turned down the role of Trinity. John Cusack was trying to get the role of Neo. Leonardo DiCaprio
would have been cool.
Leonardo DiCaprio actually turned down the part of Neo, supposedly because he was concerned about the amount of visual effects. David Duchovny turned down the role of Neo in order to do the X-Files movie that came out in 1998.
Oh, well.
How many people did they offer this role to?
Everybody.
Probably a lot.
I'm glad they all turned it down because, let me tell you, Keanu Reeves rocked it.
Yeah, Lou Diamond Phillips was sent the script, but was later told by his agent that the movie would flop, so didn't do it because his agent told him not to. I would have fired that fucking guy real quick.
Right.
Let's see. Nicolas Cage actually turned down the role of Neo due to scheduling conflicts regarding family issues. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Here's a whole lot of names real quick. Let's see. Jennifer Connelly, Marissa Tomei, Selma Hayek, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Halle Berry, Jennifer Lopez, Angelina Jolie, Angie Harmon, Drew Barrymore, Kate Hudson, Uma Thurman, Ming-Na Wen. Really? Ming-Na Wen? That's weird. Michelle Yeoh. God, she would have been good at it. Winona Ryder, Lucy Liu, Courtney Cox, Heather Graham, Elizabeth Hurley, Mariska Hargitay, Jennifer Beals, and Ashley Judd all auditioned or were considered for the role or turned down the role of Trinity.
Wow.
No Ashley Judd, please.
God, Ming-Na Wen. God, Ming-Na Wen or Michelle.
That would have been sweet.
Oh,
yeah,
that would have been awesome. I mean, if anybody could have done this as good as it was done in the movie, Ming-Na Wen would have been interesting, especially Michelle Yeoh.
Mm-hmm.
I know that name Ming-Na Wen, but I can't place her. I know it, but I can't. I don't know what I'm saying her in.
She's Fennec Shand in the Mandalorian.
Yeah, Mando. Yeah.
She played Agent. What's her name in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show. That's
where I
that would have been really interesting. God, her Michelle Yeoh, that would have been really cool to see. No Jennifer Connelly, no Angelina Jolie. It's not Angelina Jolie's kind of movie. I don't think Drew Barrymore would have worked either. Heather Graham.
I can't take Drew Barrymore seriously. She's, I wouldn't have bought her in that role. It wouldn't work.
I don't think Courtney Cox from Friends. I don't think Monica was going to be out there kicking ass, but.
Yeah, Madonna even revealed on the Jimmy Fallon show recently that whenever this was put in there, that she had turned down a role in the film, and later she stated that this was one of the best films ever made. I really don't think that's true. I really think what probably happened is somebody was just like, hey, maybe there's a role for Madonna. Madonna was like, I don't know if I want to fucking do it or not. And then the opportunity just kind of passed. And then she was like, oh, yeah, I totally could have been in that movie, but I had other things I had to turn down. No, bitch, you didn't. They probably didn't offer you shit. But there was a whole lot of potential castings for this that were absolutely outrageous that I was reading. I wish I'd had room for all of them, but I mean, we kind of just went through at least the majority of them. I mean, like Christopher Maloney auditioned for the role of Agent Smith. So Janet Jackson could have been in the movie at one point. Mark Wahlberg was lobbying to be in it. I mean, whatever. There was just so many.
Why not Jack Black?
From the way this sounds, I think I was offered the role of Morpheus, but I turned it down.
Right.
Jeremy was 3 when this movie came out. He could have been the baby Neo in the pod.
I was gonna say, yeah.
But he turned the role down because of obligations to family issues.
Yeah,
Jeremy was pre-Neo, like in the flashback scene. What he was.
No, it's 99. I was too busy with kindergarten. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yeah,
Carrie-Anne Moss said that after the film's release, she could not go out wearing sunglasses because she would be recognized instantly.
Damn, ain't that a bitch? Funny twist.
That is funny because usually you put on the sunglasses and the hat, you do the whole Marvel disguise thing to try to not be noticed. She's like, I can go out with sunglasses on because people instantly know who the hell I am.
She should have just gone blonde.
Yeah, I can't go nowhere with that sunglasses.
I mean, to be fair, I saw her in that god-awful movie. In that god-awful movie, The Bye-Bye Man. I'm like, damn, have you aged at all? Like you and Keanu? What the hell happened? What is this crap?
I was watching her in the Marvel Netflix stuff that she played in Jessica Jones and all that. Mm-hmm. I mean, she looks a lot older, but she's still kind of a badass.
Yeah, no, I'm like, she still got it. Like, if she yelled at you, you sit up to attention like, oh, shit, sorry, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Yeah, she still has a screen presence. So,
you see her rise up and she goes to kick you. You're like, oh, fuck, okay, sorry.
Yeah, and she still carries, and like in one of the, I'll give the most recent movie credit. I mean, she's still a good Trinity in it. I mean, the role hadn't gotten past her at all. And for the most part, Neo didn't get past Keanu Reeves either, which is nice to see. Because one of the things, like the new Bill and Ted came out, the Bill and Ted whatever the hell it was that came out a couple of years ago. I was watching that movie and I was like, I'm watching Keanu Reeves. I was like, I'm watching Keanu Reeves and I'm seeing John Wick now.
John Wick.
There's no way that it was like he wasn't even trying to be that goofy surfer kid from San Dimas anymore. He was just like trying to be a toned down John Wick or Neo. And I was like, I can't like this movie or take it seriously because all I'm seeing now is John Wick without the beard. That's all I'm seeing.
Well, and that was what was even worse about the fourth Matrix. I'm like, you kept the beard. I'm like, dude, you're just being John Wick now.
Yeah. You're trying to play the John Wick look. Okay, we get it. But this is about
He does it well, but I'm like, this is the Matrix, dude. Like, come on.
I know. It's crazy. But let's see. With the exception of the call traces, the glyphs on the computer screen that represent the Matrix code consist of reversed letters, numbers, and Japanese katakana characters. I didn't mispronounce that too bad.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it definitely is a jumble of all kinds of stuff. I mean, you guys can kind of see it on the background we've got here. That's kind of
all
what
you
it
see
is. Actually,
that's blonde, redhead, brunette. That's what I see.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Let's see. By the middle of 2002, the famous bullet time scene had been spoofed in over 20 different movies just 3 years after this movie came out.
I was going to say, like, I remember, notably first that comes to mind, I guess it's technically still the bullet time, but freaking Shrek. Like when Princess Fiona's after kicking Robin Hood and all his merry men's ass, she does the jump in the air, she pauses and then fixes her hair as a joke, and then boom, kicks him in the face. I'm like, oh god, here we go. We're not letting this trope go, are we?
I guess we're not. But let's see. The last shot filmed of the entire movie was apparently Neo getting flushed into the lake when he gets unplugged for the first time.
Huh.
I find that hard to believe, if I'm being perfectly honest. Because if he shaved himself and lost 15 pounds and emaciated himself the way that we had like the first piece of trivia did, I figured you would shoot that early so that he would kind of build himself back up physically as the movie went on. But then again, if I'm being honest, he is pretty slender for really the entire movie. So yeah, maybe that could be, I guess, because even right there, he looks very thin.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like, he's just starting out. I don't know.
That's because he doesn't have a beard.
Maybe. Could be.
Yeah, I can't not see. Well, not just that, but that beard on, obviously the John Wick patchy beard thing. He needs to keep that forever. Whenever he shaved it for that new Bill and Ted movie, I'm like, grow that back immediately. You look, whatever's going on, cover that up. You look weird.
I think they tried to hold on to a little bit of the John Wick because they left him with the long hair. Whereas he didn't have that long a hair in the first two films. So I think they were just like, we're going to shave the beard because we don't want to be obvious, but we're going to go ahead and leave the hair a little long because he's a musician. Musicians have long hair, but in reality, we're just like, remember this guy played John Wick? That's why you should watch this movie.
He gives me confidence that I have also a very dumb, patchy beard, but I still can't make it work.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's
I'm saying it just makes me feel better
some
about
people,
this monstrosity.
Some guys need the facial hair. I don't recognize me when I don't have right now it's thinner, so it's not where I want mine to be. But it's the look that that person should have, kind of thing. You know what I mean? He looks weird without it now. I can't go back and watch Speed or Matrix, and I'm like, this isn't Keanu Reeves. You know what I mean? So.
I would probably look like, I almost said John Wick. I almost look like Keanu Reeves from the new Bill and Ted if I just shave this off. Like, it's just jarring and it's just not right. Like, I would look so weird without this.
His jawline didn't look right without the beard.
It's just,
I don't know if it's because he's not. I don't know if it's because he's not like 20 anymore. I mean, he's like fucking 50 something now. So maybe it's just his features have kind of become what they've become. but I'm like, he didn't look quite right. I was like, you may as well just kept the fucking beard. And just done exactly what they did with the newer Matrix movie. Just be like, we're gonna try to capitalize on the John Wick look. But that's just me. But a couple more quick pieces. In a very eerie coincidence, and this is one that's been circulated for a long time already. Jeremy will probably know this since I started reading it. Neo's passport expires on September 11th, 2001.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Really?
Yeah.
When he shows his passport early in the movie.
Conspiracy theory confirmed. 9/11 was an inside job. There you go.
Well, it's never explicitly stated that that's New York City, but I mean, that's yikes.
I'm not touching it.
If Dave Rose were here right now, he'd be way off on his tangent. But I just let him go because
you and I had that.
Hell no.
You and I had that same argument over on Derailed not too long ago. We can do it here too, buddy. I'm prepared. It's all good.
I don't know. I guess that time we are only a couple of days away from the anniversary, so I mean.
Well, we're doing something different for that date. We're doing,
we're not actually going live on the 11th. So.
Oh, it's gonna be a blast whenever we do that show on September 11th. I can't wait. I just hope it don't bomb. I mean, we'll
terrible jokes.
Hey.
But let's see. But I've got one more thing.
During that time too.
I got one more thing. I'll put up my least favorite shot of this entire movie. I don't understand that pose. But
when you freeze frame it right in the middle like that, I mean, he's just like, boom, flex, and then he does, of course he does like.
I swear to God, when I watched this last night, I swear to God, as I was sitting in my living room watching it, and when he strikes this pose, the first thing I thought, for some reason in my mind, popped up John Travolta and Saturday Night Fever going. That was I had to like pause the movie and giggle to myself for a minute because I was like, that's what it looked like to me. And I know this picture doesn't do it a whole lot of justice, but it's such an off-putting wasted movement, that scene. I was like, I don't get it.
Put that picture back up for me. Put that picture back up. You know what he looks like right there? Do y'all remember like the wrestling action figures from like the late 80s, early 90s where they were made out of rubber?
Up and down?
Well, no. I'm talking about the ones right before that where the whole things were made out of like that hard rubber kind of thing. And you couldn't move the arms or the legs, and they were pre-posed like Hulk Hogan would be like flexing or something. That's what that picture looks like right there.
Or even worse.
It looks like an old action.
Or he's about to turn into the
shoulders, and so you can only do this.
Because his body is like,
yeah. He looks like an old, were they Hasbro's or LGNs? I can't remember. They're one of the two. He looks like an old action figure from the 80s to the early 90s.
Yeah. All I know
is stuff in the.
Go ahead.
Look, someone who there's a lot of goofy crap you can look at in some of the martial arts scenes. Like, well, why does Laurence Fishburne right when he goes up to me, he does like this little shifty foot thing, and then like keeps doing that? I'm like, trying to fake him out. I'm like, someone who did. This is also why it doesn't help my case that I have been told so many times I look like Keanu Reeves. I also did martial arts like when I was in my teens, so I'm like, there's a lot of goofy shit. I mean, we're gonna excuse the little, like he's like doing this when he's doing his little Bruce Lee crap. It's like, I don't know. You're gonna forgive Bruce Lee for doing that too when he like stomps on someone and he goes like that. I mean, I'm just saying it's not as glamorous as you might think. You do some dumb shit when you're sparring with somebody.
I just always thought the move was off-putting, but he's not sparring right there. He's fighting for his life against Aiden Smith.
Well, no, he's fighting, but I mean, the cool thing is too, if you notice the little, like, it's cool. It's like he's shaking the dust off. You notice the dust falls off his arms after he gets like thrown to the ground. He's like, boom, like dusts it off, and then goes back into like, yeah, come on, bring it, bitch. Like, I ain't scared of you.
But while I've got this picture up, I'll ask you the big question. According to IMDb, Jeremy was really hoping to avoid this. What's the official body count?
No, I'm not. No. I don't even care because, like, you know what? It's usually, how many people died? And then I'm like, no, now he's going to do dumb shit like, how many times did they say fuck? How many times was the guy's name said? I'm like, I don't fucking know any of these. Just pull random crap out of a hat.
Wait.
How many stairs are in this movie? Fuck you.
Are we talking?
Not fun.
Are we talking real life people or people within the Matrix people?
See,
the number could vary.
You mean real people or like? Yeah.
Because if you
Did
count the
they
Matrix
die?
people, you have to count all the people that the agents took the bodies over of.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
So
yeah.
Right.
It doesn't specify. It just has a number.
oh my god, then
All
not
right.
answering your fucking
I'll
question.
bid. I'll
You don't
I'll
understand the
bid
parameters of your
$1,
own
Bob.
fucking question.
I'm gonna bid $1, Bob. I'll take one.
$2.
Just for the comedic sake of it. There you go.
99.99.
Without going over. Well, I was on the high end. I said 2.
So Cora thinks she's gonna get closest to $1 without going over, and she's gonna win this thing.
She might. You never know.
She's going 90. So Tex says 1, Jeremy says 2, Cora's going. She's going all out. She's going 99. The actual body count, according to IMDb, was 39. I don't know
Hey,
where they
I
got
won.
this number. I wasn't counting them, but you know. You know what? Honestly, if anybody from IMDb watches this, or if this ever gets to anybody at IMDb, or if you know somebody that works for IMDb, have them break down at least for some of these.
Show their notes. Show the work.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Can we get them on the show? Like, we need somebody from IMDb who does kill counts, or we can get the guy from Dead Meat on here. That'd be really cool.
You know,
Go
who's
ahead.
really
Do a
adding
proper-
up those numbers? Some intern who's high on drugs watching the movie, like, oh, I gotta fill out this for all these movies.
Like, what, dude?
Yeah.
The Matrix.
It's just random.
Whoa.
He's
It was
smoking a
39,
joint.
bro.
He just snorted a couple rails of coke. He's watching some movies. He lives in Southern California. He's
No,
part, he's
see-
part of the party entertainment lifestyle.
Well,
we need
a lot
to
of
get
that-
our massive. We need to get our massive viewership base to at IMDb to be like, hey, we need a representative on Thursday night or next Thursday night to talk
We need
about
to start
kill
seeing the
counts.
receipts. Like, come on.
Maybe
Yeah,
not,
we
maybe
need
not
some
next
receipts
Thursday.
here.
Maybe not next
Well,
Thursday.
At some point in the future,
I-
be like,
I think
at IMDb, come on, or hashtag the horse tree. There you go.
I think the bulk of that's probably, again, like the lobby shootout and them trying to get Morpheus back. That's probably where most of it comes from. But there's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
could
SWAT
see
guys
that.
in there, and they killed every single one of them. So that was a good.
Yeah,
That was like a small squad of them rolled in that lobby with guns. So I don't know.
true.
All I can say is I want a Super Bowl commercial 5-10 years from now where all the main characters are like aged to be in their 80s in a nursing home, and they're all sitting around a table wheeling themselves down the hallways looking at each other like, do I know you from somewhere? As if they're
Yeah,
like
they had-
some...
Didn't they kind of do that in 4 though?
I was like, they had that, Cora. It's called the 4th movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, remember? So...
Well, you just described it basically. Did you?
wow.
If
Well,
you
don't
ever-
watch it because it's
If you ever wanted to
garbage.
see Jada Pinkett Smith look like she's 200 years old, just watch that movie, and it's like, yeah, she's definitely still alive for some reason.
No comment.
Just don't, man.
she's
I
horrible.
understand the Neo and Trinity. It's like, yeah, they've been in a pod. They don't look, but she actually aged. I'm like, right. What? I don't know.
If you like Neo as a character, don't watch the 4th one because they
Okay.
basically give him they basically give him the Luke Skywalker treatment that he got in the new Disney Star Wars trilogy. So
Yeah, if you like yourself as a Matrix fan, don't do it.
stop at
Yeah.
3 and
I didn't watch
4
the
never
Footloose.
existed.
I didn't watch Avatar 1 or 2. I can miss this one and still breathe and be happy.
You
Just
can you
chunk
can
that-
you can bullet dodge
Dunk that
number
one in
4.
the pile.
Yeah. But that's a good place to start wrapping things up. Lady Cora, where can the folks at home find you?
Nowhere. I'm here when you have me. Otherwise, I'm a ghost.
The Ghost in the Machine.
The Ghost in the Machine.
Maybe you're just part of the YouTube. Maybe you're a YouTube bot we use for these shows, and otherwise you don't.
I am an
exist.
AI program, so
Right.
you never
Yes.
know.
There you go.
Designed by RM, just to fuck with us.
Go into the Google Play.
If you're not
Go
one
into
of
the
us, you're
Google
one
Play
of
Store.
them.
You can download your own Cora if you want to for $4.99.
Our new merch, guys. You can have your very own Cora. Now in the Google
my
Store.
hetero life mate Jeremy, where can the folks at home find you on the internet, sir?
I'm obviously here every day of the week now, I guess, in September, except for Wednesdays because I don't sports. But we're gonna be doing, like we said, Monday Night Saw's coming up on the 11th. That's actually, I think that's the next time you'll see me, and Tex as well. So there's that to look forward to in the month of September, because we'll also be doing that leading up to the new Saw movie, which is late September. And
29th, I believe.
Yeah.
Saw X comes out October 3rd right now, unless the release.
I thought it was like
Did
September.
they bump it back to October 3rd? It wasn't September.
I will go confirm, but I will confirm after we're done here. But yes,
Yeah.
right now I think it's good.
Damn it. Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. October 3rd is
They moved it.
October 3rd is when our review is scheduled. So
Okay.
maybe it comes out later. So
Yeah, I think it might have. Okay, you scared me.
yeah, I'm looking at our broadcast schedule.
All this planning.
Okay.
Right. So anyway, I'm here Thursdays doing movie reviews like we've been doing since the writer's strike took basically everything from us. But hey, that's what this is about. It's about, we're all movie fans. We've all seen a plethora of movies, and that's what we want to. That was the whole basis of this show, is to share that with you. That's what we all came here to do. I've also been. I don't know if we want to make it a thing, but it seems like every time we end a stream, we kind of after stream on Fortnite. I don't know. You want to come hang out and game with me and Frank and Rachel and everyone else that I've ruined their life with playing Fortnite. So there's that. You can, as Frank titled it, we suck at Fortnite. So you can come watch us do that.
Yeah, that's what I named the streams now, is We Suck at Fortnite Volume 1, 2, 3, whatever.
Yeah.
We finished strong with the win last time. So.
We got one win. Yeah, we got to win. Yeah, and it's becoming spooky season, so I apologize if I drop in and out randomly. I mean, I'm gonna work through Monday Night Saw, but I'm saying it's spooky season, so I'm gonna be working like 7 days a week now. So, well, I have Fridays off, but shut up. I still have to go down there and scare the crap out of people, which I get paid probably about the same amount as my actual job, which is kind of funny. But yeah. Then after that, it's kind of dead air for me. I'll be back on here again.
And to our friend from down south, the shape of the Lone Star State, our man Tex. What do you got going on, my friend?
Well, I mean, the already plugged Monday Night Saw, of course. I guess I'll plug the football stuff. I'm currently doing homework watching the Travis Kelce short Kansas City Chiefs, which I have him on one of my teams, and I'm really pissed that he's not playing tonight because he was my number one draft pick. But, with the Wednesday night fantasy football show. So, enjoy your football. Come here on Wednesday nights, Frank and I, and I'm sure others will pop in to, talk about football and man stuff and do whatever and have a good old time with it. So I'm doing research right now. We got a tied game, 14-14, Lions and Chiefs.
It's a much closer game than I thought it would be. As much as I like the Lions and think they can be successful in the division this year, I really didn't think the Chiefs were going to.
When you take a third of your offense away, Travis Kelce, that's why it's a tie game right now. But it is what it is. So, what you going to do?
Yeah, as for me, you can find me here. It's going to be Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We're going to be for the next couple of months, next probably 4 months. You're going to see us here 3 times a week, 3 straight days. You're going to see us here. What is today? Thursday. You're going to see us here on Tuesday. You'll see us here. We're going to continue the 90s theme for the 9th month of the year. And another movie that I think me and Jeremy are going to have a lot of fun with, The Usual Suspects. That's another one of the great kind of, I don't know if it's a noir film, but it's definitely an interesting filming style. A lot of great acting performances. I mean, this was back when we could like Kevin Spacey. But we'll be talking about The Usual Suspects here in next Tuesday, and then Wednesday, as Tex mentioned, it's going to be week 1 of the Harsh Truth Fantasy Football Show. We're going to be going over some of the bigger stories from week 1 in the NFL. We'll be talking about some fantasy stuff. Guys, we think you should pick up on the waiver wire, some surprise performances from week 1. I don't know if that'll go for a long, long time. It may only be about an hour or so, but we're going to start branching out into some more sports content for the rest of the year. So come join us. If you're a football fan, if you're into fantasy sports, come check us out. We very much appreciate it. Other than that, I'm here whenever I see a movie. I come give you some stuff. We don't have any new stuff coming up until the Saw 10 on October 3rd. And then, of course, we got a couple of things coming out next month. The Exorcist coming out next month. Five Nights at Freddy's comes out next month. So next month there's going to be a lot of really cool new film reviews going on.
Real quick, before you go out, one trailer I did see, I think I posted it in the group. It's a horror anthology film. It comes out in September. I think it's only theaters for a weekend. It looks interesting. It's called Satanic Hispanics, and it's like 3 or 4 different segments.
I haven't watched the trailer.
It looks
I saw
very
it there, but I
interesting.
was going to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it on YouTube last night. I think it's getting a short theatrical run. I'm going to try to go see it. It's got the guy that played Pedro in Napoleon Dynamite. Y'all remember who he was?
Oh,
I don't remember his name. I know you're talking about.
Well, either way, he seems like he's the star of the film, but this is going to play off a few different horror tropes in the that world. So go on YouTube, check out the Satanic Hispanics trailer. And Eli Roth finally released his trailer for his long-awaited horror film Thanksgiving, which is a slasher film set at Thanksgiving that he set up years ago in Machete. So or not in Machete, but in Grindhouse. So go check those out too.
There is also a new trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's, so go check that shit out. It's going to be a fun time. Oh my
I think
God.
it's funny that so many trailers are coming out, considering they have no idea when half these movies are getting released because of the strike. But whatever.
Well, as
long as the movies are filmed, they can come out. They just won't have any actors there to do any of the press or the whole red carpet thing. But thanks to the 90 people that voted in the poll, 78% of you said you would take the red pill. 22% said the blue pill. Now remember, we're not talking about politics here because that whole thing has been kind of hijacked by politics the last several years.
Mm-hmm.
But just would you stay in the Matrix or would you leave the Matrix? I don't know. Part of me would stay. I'm not going to lie. Text real quick. What would you do? Would you stay in the Matrix or would you bounce?
I can't take a blue pill. That's way too liberal. So I'm going to have to Alex Jones thing and get the hell out of here. I'm ready to do it. So.
Jeremy, how about you? You taking the red pill or you taking the blue pill?
I think I'd take the red. I mean, because if I just saw this fucker start bending, I just realized there is no spoon.
You don't bend the
red
spoon.
pill.
You just realize the spoon isn't really there. But then how does
this
it bend if it's not really there?
Does not exist. I look
Cora,
like a Men in
how about
Black
you?
agent doing that shit. Like,
Cora, how about you? Are you going to take the red pill and leave the Matrix, or are you going to take the blue pill and stay in the program?
I like my purses. I like tacos. I like everything pink. I'm not risking, reality. I'll live in the Matrix.
so she said ignorance is bliss. Yeah.
Oh, hell yes.
That's exactly
100%.
what Cypher says. He's like, ignorance is bliss. I don't know. I don't know. If I know about the Matrix, I would say I would probably go ahead and just take the blue pill and stay. I mean, because if I know the ramifications of the decision, it's like, why would I want to go live in this post-apocalyptic world where all I can eat is gruel? Yeah. And I barely bathe. I'm living in a cave somewhere, God knows how many miles beneath whatever city. Or I could just stay in the computer program and I could just live kind of a fairly normal life. You know what?
See, I would have a hard time believing you went the blue pill if you could have the girl the red dress every day.
She don't say much.
Okay, depending.
You live in that simulation.
A hot woman, a hot woman that doesn't speak is the greatest thing on earth. So I may have to take the blue pill if I can get.
So him and Mouse are going to be best friends. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no beer with the red pill.
A good-looking woman with a mute button is like the dream in life, but I've yet to find it. So it is what it is.
Send your hate mail to his Twitter. Gig'em1.
Go ahead, send it all. It won't be read. Actually, I will read it. I will read it live on here and laugh at you if you do that. So please go ahead.
We could do some Jimmy Kimmel. Read some mean tweets. Why not? That'd be funny.
You sexist pig. Blah, 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 blah. I can see it right now. It'll be hilarious.
But thank you guys very much for coming and hanging out with us. We very much appreciate it. Don't forget, next time you see us, we'll be breaking down The Usual Suspects, one of the great caper, weird, eclectic movies from the 90s. We look forward to seeing you all then. Until next time, adios. See you guys later.
Cora, I think you need to hit your mute button. You get kind of mouthy sometimes. You get a little bit unruly.
I know I need a mute button. I need to find it myself sometimes.
Yeah, be seen and not heard, as they say. Do something like that.
Is there a gray pill like the Gray Jedi? I can do that.